9. John 9. Hey, 40 days with Jesus. We're in John chapter 9 today. Yesterday we left off with Jesus leaving the temple. He'd been there for a week, spent time arguing with or discussing with the Pharisees, or the Jews as John would call them, and spent time also teaching and preaching truth. And many people who heard believed and were becoming followers of Christ. And others were completely rejecting Christ, like the Jews. And it says that as he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. Now, we don't know how this was known, but evidently it was known, at least with Jesus and the disciples, a man who was blind from birth. And it says that his disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Again, rabbi, a term just says teacher, or the one who we were following and listening to. Who sinned? Again, a common concept among the Jewish people at that time was that if somebody had some great sickness or disease, it was because of sin, either in their lives or somebody else's life. Maybe the parents had passed down this disease because of sin in the parents' life. And this is Jesus' answer. "Neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so that the work of God might be displayed in his life." Now, I don't think Jesus is saying they never sinned, but that the sin was not what caused this blindness. Again, God says this happened. This man was born blind so that the work of God might be displayed in his life. And he said, "As long as it is day, we must do the work of him who sent me." As long as it is day, I must do the work of him who sent me. Remember that, sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I'm in the world, I am the light of the world. Jesus is letting us know that darkness is coming. There's darkness that we exist in or experience in our lives. And before we come to know Christ, certainly we walked in darkness. And Jesus is saying, I'm not going to be physically here forever. But while I'm here, I'm the light of the world. And Jesus had just said that back in the last chapter, I'm the light of the world. And he says it again. And he's saying in reference to this fact that God's getting ready to do something. And it says, having said this, Jesus spit on the ground and made some mud with the saliva and put it on the man's eyes. "Go," he told them, "wash in the pool of Siloam." This word means sent. Now why Jesus wanted, or why John wanted us to make sure we caught this, I'm not sure, but the word Siloam means sent. Jesus had just said that he's here because he has to do the work of the one whom sent him. Jesus was sent, and now Jesus is sending or has sent this man to a pool called Siloam, which means sent. So the man went and washed, and he came home seeing. Now we could stop there and be done, but there's a few more verses that we're going to look at before we finish up today. But just grab a couple things here. Jesus said there wasn't because of sin that this man was born blind, but he was born blind because God wanted to accomplish his work in him, or God's work was going to be shown through him. And for this man, it was the experience of being healed that God was going to show up and show off. And the man who was blind would one day see. And this was that day. This was his one day to experience sight for the first time, light to enter his eyes for the first time. Jesus said, "I am the light of the world." Now, maybe the people at that time didn't understand that concept, but we know, at least we know today, that we cannot see without light. That light is actually what we're actually comprehending or seeing. Our eyes are taking in to have vision. And we've got that concept that Jesus says, "I'm the light of the world now." And then he brought healing to this man, and he became the light to this man so that he could experience sight for the very first time. Then Jesus, he reaches down and spits in the ground and makes mud out of it, makes mud, and then takes it and puts it on the man's eyes, which sounds kind of gross to us, but according to the studies that I've done anyways, that was a common ointment or a common way of treating eye diseases or problems with the eye. It just sounds kind of strange, but that was common. So it wasn't something that seems so gross to us, but it was a common thing for them. Now, why did Jesus use the mud? Jesus didn't have to. Jesus could have just said, "You can see," and the guy could have seen. Some people would say that Jesus was taking this man for a place where he was going to test his faith. Do you believe? If you believe, you will see. How would we know if he believed? Jesus put mud on his eyes and then said, "Go and do something." And when the man went and did something, when the man went and washed, then he received his sight. Now, sometimes I wonder if God does the exact same things in our lives. He's already got a plan for us. He's got an experience that he wants us to have. He's got something he wants to accomplish through our lives or in our lives. He wants us to experience healing, life change, something in our lives. And God is saying, go. And so many times we don't go. So many times, although God has sent us, we don't follow through with that sending. And maybe we miss out on what God wants to do in our lives. I want to encourage you, if you've been sensing that, maybe some of you have been sensing this kind of a thing for years. You know God has sent you to do something, but you've held back and you haven't gone because it just wasn't comfortable, didn't feel like the right time. I want to encourage you to go. If it didn't feel like the right time, this guy might have missed on seeing for years before he would have accepted the sent call and went and washed. But because he went and washed that day, he received sight that day. Maybe that's you. Maybe there's something in your life, or maybe in my life, that I've been holding off on. And it's time to experience the sending of Christ. Go, because he said go. This guy went, and it says that, again, when he washed, he came home seeing. He received the gift of sight. He received the gift of light, and received the gift of Jesus, I believe, salvation that day. In verse 8, it picks up and says, his neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg? To me, this is almost humor. Funny. The guy, they're having this argument. Isn't this the guy we used to see? The guy who's walking and see, and he can see now? Isn't he the one that used to sit and beg? And then some said that, but then others said, no, he only looks like that guy. It's not really that. It can't be really that guy. That guy was blind. He's been blind since he was born. That can't be the guy. They're having this discussion about who he is. And finally the guy speaks up and says, no, it's me. It is me. I am the man. I am the one who was blind, but now I see. And so for me, that's almost a proclamation of I have experienced life. I've experienced light. I've experienced healing. I can see. And they said, I am the man. And they said, how then were your eyes open? How did you become seeing when you could not see? And he replied, the man they called Jesus made some mud and put it on my eyes. He told me to go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and then I could see. I want to encourage you, whatever Jesus is calling you to do, whatever it is, this symbolic washing, symbolic of just going and following what Christ is telling you to do it, so that he can accomplish what he wants to in our lives. Jesus is sending. Are we the ones who are responding and going, I want to be sent, and I'm going? Go wherever Christ sends you, and then watch what he wants to do and the miracle he'll perform in your life and maybe through your life into somebody else's life. Hey, this is Pastor Tony. This is 40 Days with Jesus, and I'll see you tomorrow as we pick up the rest of chapter 9 and look into what happens next. Because this is just set up for more confusion and more people going, what is going on? What did Jesus do? Who is Jesus? Where is Jesus? What happened to this man? And it's a kind of exciting time of exploration and maybe even understanding Jesus more. I'll see you tomorrow. 40 Days with Jesus.